If you have spent much time on the channel, you will know that we love going into caves. And one of the caves that we've really enjoyed is Great Basin National Park's Lehman Cave. In fact, we had so much fun in there on our first visit, we decided to come back and see it again. But before we go deep underground, let's go over a little bit of information that will make it much easier for you if you decide to come and visit this cave for yourself. The first question that you may have is, what tours do the Lehman Caves offer? Lehman Caves offer 30-minute, 60-minute, and 90-minute tours that explore different parts of the cave system. Recently, they also started to offer a lantern-only tour and a wild caving tour. These two tours are only available during the summer, but there are 4 main tours at Lehman Caves. These tours are the Grand Palace Tour, Parachute Shields Tour, Lodge Room Tour, and the Gothic Palace Tour. Depending on the season, Lehman Caves might offer different tours and time slots. The complete schedule or tour details may not be published until 1 to 3 months before the tour date. Therefore, we recommend checking out the park's website for more up-to-date information. The next one is a big one, and it's how to reserve your tour tickets. Lehman Caves is very popular, especially because you cannot enter the caves without a tour ticket, and there are 2 ways to get your tickets. The first way is buying them in advance on reservation.gov. You will need an account to book your ticket. Please note that same-day tours are not available online and you'll need to get them in person. Tour tickets become available at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, 7 a.m. Pacific Time 30 days in advance. And the tours are offered year-round except for Thanksgiving Day, Christmas Day, and New Year's Day. The other way to get your tickets is in person at the Lehman Caves Visitor Center. If you are visiting in this summer, we highly recommend reserving your tickets in advance. Summer is the busy season here and tickets sell out very quickly. But what if you can't get a tour reservation? If you can't get your tickets in advance, you might still be able to get some in person at the visitor center. Sometimes there might be cancellations or changes that allow you to get your tickets. The park also offers walk-up tours indicated with an asterisk on their tour schedules. These depend on scheduling and staffing levels. These walk-up tours often sell out within the first hour. So we recommend getting to the visitor center before it opens, which is 8 a.m. in the spring and summer and 9 a.m. in the winter. When we visited in May, we got there 30 minutes before 8 a.m. and there was already a line of people waiting. However, we were still lucky enough to get our tickets. And the last thing is, what else do I need to know? You need to make sure that your clothing or items have not been in any other cave systems before, unless they have been cleaned or decontaminated. You can only bring a light jacket into the caves. You cannot bring a purse or bag of any kind. There are no food, drinks, gum, or tobacco allowed, and that even means water. And no tripods, selfie sticks, pets, or strollers are allowed. And the last thing that's really important to know is that the park is on Pacific time. This can be tricky because Great Basin is on the border of Nevada and Utah. So our phones kept switching over to Mountain Time. Make sure to keep an eye on your clock so you're not late for your tour. We will be starting the video by doing the Parachute Shield Tour. This goes all the way back to the Grand Palace. The park recommends arriving to the visitor center at least 15 minutes before your tour starts, but we think that you should get there a little bit earlier than that, just so you have time to check out the awesome visitor center. There are tons of informative exhibits here, and it's just a really cool place to check out. After we checked in and got our tickets, it was time to exit through the gift shop to meet up with our tour. Once you head outside, you'll be making a right and looking for this area. This is where you'll be making some new friends while you wait for the ranger to arrive. Once she did, we had a quick Q&A session before it was time to wash our shoes. This is really important because people are not the only inhabitants of the cave. This is home to bats. While we haven't seen any over the course of our 2 visits, this is their home. And they are really susceptible to something known as white nose syndrome. This is why it's really important that we don't bring anything into this cave that's been in other caves, because we're trying not to spread the white nose syndrome to these bats as well. Welcome to Lehman Cave. Even though we won't be exploring the cave in its entirety, there are over 2 miles of passages down here. After a fairly short walk, we made our first stop along the Parachute Shield Tour, which is the Lodge Room. This was a familiar spot for us because this is where our tour ended last time. Don't forget to look up when you're in this room because the ceiling is absolutely covered in really unique formations. Once the entire group had made it to the Lodge Room, it was time to go over unique facts about the cave and its inhabitants. One of the things that I found really fascinating is that the bats actually give birth to their babies in another cave, but they bring them here to learn how to fly. We passed by two really cool looking shield formations as we made our way out of the Lodge Room to continue on to the next stop. You're not supposed to touch any of the formations inside the cave, and that can get pretty tough because there are a couple of narrow spots. The ranger said that obviously if you're going to fall or something, you can do what it takes to catch yourself so you don't get hurt, but the oil in our skin does stop the growth of these formations, so it's best to avoid it if at all possible. The next room was a bit of a surprise for us. This is the inscription room. We are always against graffitiing in nature, but the markings in this room do have a bit of history to them, and the park actually embraces them. There have been tours here since the early 1900s, and back then they were only lit by candlelight. It appears that the early visitors used the candle to write their names on the ceiling of the cave with the soot. And nowadays it's just kind of a guest book of people who came long ago. But that being said, please don't add any new names to the cave. Continuing on, things are going to be getting a little bit tight. V even had to duck a couple of times to avoid bumping her head. Soon we had reached the Cypress Room and the Lake Room. The Lake Room is very appropriately named because there's a small underground lake here. Its next door neighbor, the Cypress Room, is really cool as well. Not only is there a bridge that helps you walk over the natural floor of the cave, but there are also tons of stalactites, stalagmites, and columns here. It kind of reminded us of the time that we got to drive the catboat through the cypress groves in Florida. After leaving the cypress swamps, you will come to the last two rooms of the tour. And I must say that I think they saved the best for last. This is the Grand Palace, and it is well worth its name because it is absolutely breathtaking. Right in the center of the room, there are two massive shields. And fun fact, there are 500 shields in this cave. And believe it or not, very well-known caves like Carlsbad Caverns only has a small handful of them. Once our entire group had reached the Grand Palace, the ranger broke us up into smaller groups and sent us over to the farthest point of the tour. You will end up at a viewpoint that overlooks an area known as the Sunken Garden. If you look really hard, you might be able to spot really unique formations here known as stalactites and tons of flowstone. We would have loved to have spent more time examining all the formations here, but since they were sending us through in groups, we had to head back to the Grand Palace, which I'm not too mad about that either. One of the things that we love about guided cave tours is that they are as educational as they are beautiful. We really did learn a ton down here. But if you want to live out your childhood dream of being Indiana Jones and exploring caves on your own, you should check out the Go Shoot Cave. It's not too horribly far from Lehman Caves, and it is definitely worth checking out. The way back to the exit was really quick. I think we only stopped once in the inscription room just to make sure that we had the entire group with us. But soon we were back in the lodge room, and this was the end of our most recent trip to the caves. But we filmed our first tour at the cave as well, and here are some of our favorite highlights. This tour was known as the Gothic Palace tour, and even though they aren't currently offering it, there might be other tours that go through the rooms that we visited along the way. This tour started off at the door where we originally met up at, and the first stop is another massive room known as the Gothic Palace. This room has really high ceilings and is packed full of stalactites. It was also perfect for a blackout. Our ranger also took the opportunity to show us how good the visibility is if you're exploring these caverns with just a lantern. And let me say, it's not great. It's really too bad because the first visitors to the cave never knew how spectacular it was. They may have gotten tiny glimpses, but they may have never even seen cave popcorn, which is what this is. As we left the Gothic Palace and made our way towards the music room, we encountered more tight squeezes. It was also pretty dark through this section, and it's a great reason to bring a flashlight. We have now arrived at the music room, and it is really spectacular. You're kind of tucked down in a slot canyon with a really high ceiling above you. It was called the music room because unfortunately some of the earlier visitors like to tap on the stalactites and stalagmites and play them like instruments. After leaving the music room, you'll be navigating more dimly lit corridors as you make your way back over to the lodge room. Even though we've already explored this cave twice, I would really love to come back and do either the lantern tour or the wild cave tour. I feel like there are still so many mysteries here just waiting to be explored, and we would love to be part of that. If after leaving Lehman Cave you still have not gotten quite enough, you can take a short nature trail to see the natural opening. This is how the first explorers got access to the cave, and it's still how the bats get in to this day. If you would like to check out more cave content, you should see the video that we made about Boyden Cave in Kings Canyon National Park. But that's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because it really helps out the channel. If you have ideas for future episodes on this channel, let us know. And for all the information about Lehman Caves as well as other awesome adventures, head on over to 𝐿𝐿𝑑𝙨𝑎𝑑venture.com.